Fragments of Silicon, where everyone is a fan of something.
All right, welcome to Fragments of Silicon, Season 16. Jeez, did you think we would make 16 seasons? Like, don't actually answer that because it doesn't really matter. We made it to...
I'm not a Simpsons.
Fair enough. Now, granted, we've seen some changes along the way, but, we've been operating at present capacity for a season and some change now. So, anyway, much bigger things will be afoot next week. Because do recall, next week is the scheduled launch of Moonhawk Studios Presents Season 14. So we'll see how that goes. Currently I'm shepherding the guests because, well, that's my job for that affair. Hopefully Mac will show up. He's been pretty radio silent the past couple of weeks.
I mean, he's been keeping up with his normal broadcasts, except when he can't, but he's also been trying to do as much work as possible, so...
Right. I mean, it is all kind of on him, because do you recall that's his show. Anyway, Let's get back to this show. So let's get on with the news. Petty, why don't you start us off?
Alright, so I don't remember if I mentioned this, but my mom now has a new kitty. Her name is Olivia, and we got her from PetSmart.
Oh, okay.
So, yay, kitties. Overall, not too much has been going on, thankfully. I did actually pick up a couple Gundam models over the break because both my local Hobby Lobby and Target are selling them. So, yay.
Which ones?
I got the Gundam Barbatos Lupus, the high grade, and the entry grade RX-78-2 US.
The one that's all in American flag colors?
Yep.
Those should both be pretty solid. The Barbatos might get a little bit swiggly joints after a while, I think. But sure.
Well, the big problem with it is its hip joint is utter garbage.
Yeah, the problem is that it's almost visible, so they had to make it show accurate, which is well, it's not made out of metal.
Yeah.
And it's also a little tight, I think. So, yeah.
Well, I wish it was tighter, because it's so loose if it's standing on my desk and I bump it, it falls apart. So, yeah. They also are coming out in June with the high-grade Burning Gundam from G Gundam, so I'm like, yes, please.
Wait, high grade?
Or not high grade, real grade.
Real grade, okay, yeah, I was going to say.
And, still been doing the Digimon thing. Sometime in the next couple weeks, we should be getting the pre-release for set 7? Yeah, 7, I think. So, that's going to be fun. It'd be my first pre-release of a card game I've ever been to, so...
Is that for the X antibody set, or are we still one behind?
It's the start of getting X antibody. It's Doro Greymon. So yeah, it's the one that has the hybrids.
Oh right, yeah.
And it has.
So yeah, we are still kind of behind a little bit.
I think we are 2 behind. But yeah, that's going to be interesting. And yeah, just been kind of existing. So yeah, I guess next victim.
Well, that'd be you, Galax.
Well, it's been pretty low key. Honestly, I spent a lot of my time off making my way through Super Robot Wars 30. I'm about halfway through now, I think. It's a long game, especially if you do all the side missions. But I did also play a bit of Pokemon Legends Arceus, but I've been having a little bit of... I haven't been having that much time getting into it, partially because I prefer to play that with a friend, and we haven't been able to get together that often. We had Pathfinder. Ironically, both of the weeks we were off, Pathfinder was canceled due to combination. One week it was my 1 week it was my grandfather's 90th birthday, but then also everybody else had to leave early, and then the other week, my friend who's the DM works as a highway inspector, so he has to do classes as part of that occasion on a regular basis, and that was during the time. So, be looking forward to getting back to that this weekend too. Other than that, I guess it's been pretty low key. I think we've been having some actual cold weather, which has been nice. Although, as I say that, it's above freezing, which it probably should not be at night in February in Maine. So, I don't know.
All right. Anything else?
Not really. There is snow on the ground, but not a lot.
Duly noted. All right.
That's all.
Yeah. I guess it's my go. Yeah.
Mhm.
Quite a bit of news to get through, actually. Let's see. A couple of weeks ago, I got my COVID booster shot and my flu shot. Like, it was a bit of an awkward exchange when your insurance will pay for the COVID shot, but not the flu shot. Like,
Also kind of strange.
I'm like, yeah, I don't get it, but it wasn't that much. It was only $33. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was, I got my shots is the important part. Let's see. I suppose the biggest thing that happened during the break for me is if you're detecting any unusual audio quality from either this broadcast or the review session we did on Sunday, it is because I am on my phone because my laptop is in the repair shop once more. Though it's not for the same problem. It is for I hesitate to say it's a new problem with the laptop, but it's something that's hit my computers more than once. The bane of existence, that is Windows Update, fucking something up. Like, because on Saturday, I get a notification that Windows wants to update. I'm like, okay, fine. I go and take a nap. When I wake up, it went through the Windows Update. It also blew out the audio drivers. Like both outputs and inputs. So my speakers, no speakers would work. I have multiple speakers. I got headphones. The laptop onboard speakers wouldn't work. Like diagnostic equipment that's was there said there was something wrong with the audio drivers. Could not identify what driver got corrupted or whatever. And Petty and I spent a good hour and a half trying to fix this thing on Monday. And that didn't work either. So really didn't have a choice but to take it to the repair shop. And that was just yesterday. So I got zero timeline on this. How it'll affect things, I don't know. I could be getting it back tomorrow. I could be getting it back next Tuesday.
You could be getting it back next year.
Probably
Not
not that long.
Yeah. My point is the wait time is undetermined. So we'll see how things go. So I'm glad that we're doing a light show this week. Like, we originally had a guest planned, but they needed some time for their game to cook. So that's currently in mid-April. And also because I'm on my phone, we can't do the usual backup of a Let's Play. So we're going even older school tonight, and we are going to be talking about two things. Because there's been quite a bit of news while we were on break. Like next week, we got to get to PlayStation buying Bungie. And indeed, consider this the official transition to we're going to be talking about, I guess, the two sides of Nintendo, the good side and the evil side. Because first off, there was a Nintendo Direct last week, I believe.
Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck, I use this show to...
Proudly featuring JRPGs that you may not have heard of, but somebody is a fan of.
Okay, no, that wasn't what was featured. No, let's
I'm
be
exaggerating.
No, let's get right to it. The biggest thing that came out of this, literally, is fucking Kirby. Apparently, this is what we're calling him now.
I hate it. I hate every bit of that sentence you just said.
The thing is, I object on a moral level to the concept that Kirby's mouth can be full. This is just like him deciding he doesn't feel like eating it the whole way.
That makes it worse.
Do we really want to get into the lore implications here? Because there are fucking lore implications. I'm not even joking.
And good God, let's stay away from the fan art implications.
I'm like, too late.
I know.
He's definitely eating bigger stuff, is the point.
Yeah, it's like, in terms of the lore, that means Kirby can't devour real-world inanimate objects. Because, you see him, you saw the car, or if you didn't see that, you saw the cone, the traffic cone. That's, apparently the new VLC media player icon.
I don't think that's official, but a lot of people have been replacing the image with it.
I know. My point is, Kirby apparently can devour living things, but stops at a car.
He's definitely inhaled real world objects before too, so.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, there's a lot. There's actually a lot here that's probably best for, I don't know, Antdude to cover.
Mm-hmm.
And this is for this. Trying to remember the actual game's name, Kirby and the
Forgotten Kingdom.
Forgotten Land.
Forgotten Land.
Yeah, I know. It was, that was the word I was blanking on. It was Forgotten something. Forgotten Land. Yeah, that works. And also, I don't know if Nintendo knew what they were doing or didn't know what they were doing. I don't know which is worse or better, but they're calling this, the whole being able to swallow a car thing mouthful mode.
Every part of me
recoiled. It's not the being able to swallow a car. It's the thing where he doesn't swallow a thing all the way, so he has the ability to interact with the thing while interact with the world in the ways that the item do.
Important thing.
Anyway.
Yeah, that is not the important thing here. They're calling it mouthful mode.
Which I get what they're going for.
But I'm like, do not look that up.
For the love of God, do not look that up.
No, I know.
believe me, this is reaching new levels of the vor fetish.
Mm-hmm.
It's specifically not vor because he's not doing it all the way.
I'm like, how do you know to make that distinction?
Moving on.
Indeed. Anyway, so other things from the Direct. Let's see. Fire Emblem Warriors is back with 3 hopes.
Now, this will be interesting because I've heard some people theorizing that, like, since Three Houses does not have a golden route, that, like, this is where they're putting the golden route in, like, an entirely different game with a different playstyle. But it's interesting it'll be interesting how they cover it as a story thing that is separate to the actual Three Houses game. But is still an alternate version, like it's still in the same universe and uses the same characters. It'll be interesting to see how they do that. I don't think that comparisons to Age of Calamity go total. It's like obviously the time placement is different, but the idea of like doing an alternate take on the story in the Warriors style. I think there's some comparisons to be made there.
I'm sure this is all be elaborated on, but like I'm trying to like if this is supposed to be a sequel or what here?
It doesn't look like a sequel because the characters are still in their academy clothes, although that could also by the end of the series a maximum of 2 of them are alive, and if 2 of them are alive it's because Claude fucked off.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm like, and of course we're not exactly sure about the romantical options here, which is arguably the most important part of any Fire Emblem game these days. Like, once again, I'm sure Nintendo will clarify in the months ahead. Like, anyway, Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp has a new date of April 8th. Oh, yeah. Fire Emblem Warriors is coming June 24th. Yeah. Advance Wars 1 and 2, once again, it's a remake of Advance Wars 1 and 2. Like, different graphical style, but it's all the same maps. Looks like it has all the same bugs.
I don't think those games were particularly known for being buggy so much as for having AI that makes boggling decisions.
Call it what you want. Like,
I mean, there's like, it's not a bug that the AI ridiculously overvalues APCs. It's just how they value them because they can theoretically contain other things.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. No Man's Sky is coming to the Nintendo Switch, which
at least they waited until it didn't suck.
Yeah, I guess it's got that going for it, but the hype train well and truly crashed on this. It's like you never get a second chance to make a first impression. Anyway, but flipping around to a thing that people are legitimately hyped about, Mario Strikers is returning with Battle League. Like, Mario Strikers is one of the more beloved Mario Sports spin-off things. Like, clearly not as prominent as golf or tennis, but it's getting the sequel before, say, God, what was the baseball one? Slugger.
Yeah.
For example.
Well, out of all of the Mario Sports games, that was always the one that had the most distinctively different art style.
Oh, funny story about that. Apparently Next Level Games pushed the art style so off-brand that Nintendo clamped down on that quite a bit.
And yet, it still is recognizable as... I've heard that be blamed for some of the
right
some of the less obvious symptoms of all of the NPCs are Toads Now syndrome.
Yeah, I don't think there's much credence to that personally, because if you notice, the new Mario Strikers game has the art style.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's what I was gonna say, is that for the new Mario Strikers game, they are still definitely in overall. It's recognizably the same style, even if it's not exactly the same.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Splatoon 3 got we got a new look at Splatoon 3. It's
particularly they confirmed that Salmon Run is going to be returning.
Yep.
And that's what it was all about. Was about Salmon Run is there, and here are the new mechanics for it, including some new bosses, some new Salmonid bosses, new special weapons, and a revamp to the action to the way it works, where you do not have to. So the object in Salmon Run is to pick up the golden eggs and deliver them to the basket. And in the first one, you had to pick up the egg and bring it all the way to the basket. In this one, they've added the ability to throw the eggs either into the basket or to a teammate, or just sort of throw it in general, or if you're feeling spiteful, chuck it into the water. Which will help. It'll put a new wrinkle in the whole action economy of that part of the game, because before everybody had to go the whole way that wanted to bring the eggs back. So, but this way they could split up the tasks more and have some people near the thing that they caught it, that they just killed, flinging the eggs to people who are closer to the nest or something. Apparently, it takes a huge amount of ink, comparable to using a splat bomb, to throw the eggs, but that's probably best because it will keep it from being overused.
Yeah,
but that's my take, so who knows?
Yeah, apparently Splatoon 3 has a summer 2022 window. Keep in mind that is a vague window, so that could be up to September. Technically, summer ends in September, kind of deal. Anyway, yeah. So ports and remakes, Plum here. Like SquareSoft was well represented, because where to start here? I guess with Chrono Cross. Yeah, Chrono Cross Remastered is coming in on April 7th. It looks like it's going the touch-up route, which not that surprising, because I think this one used a lot of pre-rendered backgrounds. Look, it's
even
been 20
less of a touch-up than some people have been saying it.
Yeah.
But yeah, because pre-rendered shit is really fucking hard to fix.
Impossible. You can't change the resolution on pre-rendered assets.
Yeah, you'd have to just literally make it over.
Yeah. And I guess I guess Square didn't feel like putting in the effort there. And I might end up picking this up because, Chrono Cross makes me very angry, but it has been about 20 years since I played it. So a lot of the memories have faded. Some haven't. Some will never fade. But also included, because this is being called the Radical Dreamers edition, because the real prize here is that Radical Dreamers, the Lost Chrono Trigger sequel, which this game is based off of, but isn't. There are some changes. For example, Magus is in Radical Dreamers, where he is not in Chrono Cross.
Mm-hmm.
I do know that much. But yeah, my point is Radical Dreamers is going to be in this package, which is a good way to get Radical Dreamers out of the fucking void.
This was a Satellaview program.
Yeah, it's it's kind of amazing that we got this preserved. We got any of the Satellaview stuff preserved.
Yeah, most Satellaview stuff is extremely super mega dead.
Yeah, but we do have the programs and stuff. Like we got the BS Zelda and the F-Zero tracks and all that stuff preserved somehow. Like, anyway, getting into Satellaview is a whole other topic. But continuing along the Square train, let's see. Front Mission is getting remade. The first two games, like,
Hold on.
no, what?
Here is Russia.
No. Anyway,
Front Mission is a series of mostly tactical RPGs with robots that is not very well exposed over here, to my knowledge. I think we got one of the more recent games that was primarily known for not being very good, but this is a remake of the first two.
Yeah, Front Mission has a wonky history of release here. The first Front Mission game we got was Front Mission 3 on the PlayStation 2, I want to say. I think we got Front Mission 4. We didn't get Front Mission 5. Trying to remember if there was a Front Mission 6. Front Mission 1 and 2, I think, got bundled on a DS package. So, point is, Square Enix gave it a bit of a college try, and I think that this is a continuous kind of story versus Final Fantasy. I'll be honest, I don't know too much about the Front Mission games because I've never.
I think so.
Yeah, and if you the basic framework of a Front Mission game is they are tactical strategy games with RPG stuff mixed in. Think Final Fantasy Tactics before Final Fantasy Tactics or anything like that. Also worth noting, Square Enix is not handling the Front Mission games themselves. This is another project that's been passed over to our friends at Forever Entertainment. They of the Panzer Dragoon remakes, House of the Dead remakes, and so on and so forth.
They're good at remaking, is what we're saying.
Yeah. Good at remaking is definitely argumentative.
Okay. They have a long history of remaking.
Yeah. Like the Panzer Dragoon remake they put out had some problems. But that's neither here nor there. We are trying to get them back on the show. That's got a green light right now, but we are still figuring out who to actually interview. Anyway, also getting the 2D HD remake treatment is Live Alive or Live Alive. I don't think we know how.
It's apparently Live Alive. That's how they said it on the stream. I had always mentally been reading it Live Alive because this is one of those JRPGs that is considered it's a frequent member on the lists of the best JRPGs you've never been able to play. Because this was never released outside of Japan, and apparently it's a 7 different things where you play as different characters in different periods of history, and then the 8th chapter sort of combines them all together. Yeah. And I've generally heard very good things about it, but always with the caveat of, it's Japan only. So.
Yeah. And there's a few Squaresoft RPGs that are in this state, other than Live Alive. Bahamut Lagoon, Treasure Hunter G come to mind immediately. There's some others. And one of the big things about why their cachet is so low compared to even say something like Terranigma is Terranigma got a Western release in Europe. I'd say strangely that hasn't been corrected yet, but here's the thing about the Enix Quintet titles. They shared a copyright on that. Like if you look at the menu screens, Soul Blazer, Illusion of Gaia, Terranigma, even ActRaiser, those were a Enix Quintet joint, and that's probably why ActRaiser got a full-on remake, because they're probably not legally allowed to re-release these games. But we're talking about stuff on the Square side of things. The weird thing is, Square never tried to bring any of these RPGs over, in later generations. We got no, package of Live Alive and Bahamut Lagoon in the PlayStation era, like we did with Final Fantasy V. Talked about that recently. This is going to be the very first time anywhere other than Japan will be able to understand Live Alive. That's the exciting thing here. Well, also, it's also because they're putting arguably the most effort here.
Yeah, it's actually a full HD 2D recreation, not a not just a pixel remaster or port.
So, yeah, a lot of Square stuff, and I would expect even more of this because because I'm remembering a couple of years ago, Squaresoft said that they wanted to get their entire back catalog up to the modern age. And keep in mind, they've been doing that game by game. Remember, last year we got Legend of Mana remastered and Saga Frontier remastered. Which means, goddamn, you better be fucking working on Vagrant's story.
Or there will be blood spilled.
But what about Rad Racer?
I'm like, maybe eventually.
Yeah, Rad Racer was pretty mediocre. It's not anything particularly worth. I mean, it's not. It's one of the actual NES games that I have had much practice with. It's not bad, but it's nothing like super special.
It's no Outrun. But it does actually represent a important transition of what was going on in the late 80s in regards to driving games. Once again, that is a discussion for another day. Because there is still so much more here. We got Disney Speedstorm, which is a free-to-play kart racing game. It's a mobile port. Just don't.
Yeah, on one hand, Disney kart game, sure, fine. On the other hand, literally, I said out loud when they got to the free-to-play part, and like that, you've lost me.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Nintendo and Rare collaborated on a Disney kart racer about 20 years ago, Mickey Speedway USA. It's kind of like the least remembered Rare game from the Nintendo 64 era. Like, people will still talk about, say, Jet Force Gemini, Blast Corps, some of the stuff that wasn't as mega popular. But when you bring up Mickey Speedway USA, a lot of blank faces.
And that one didn't have disturbingly CG Captain Jack Sparrow.
Speaking of Disney and all that, Star Wars The Force Unleashed is coming on April 20th. It's the Wii version, which is why it looked so goddamn terrible. I'm guessing they wanted the Wii version because it had the motion control stuff. Let's see, we got Assassin's Creed, the Ezio collection, out now.
Which is good for people who wanted to play Assassin's Creed but didn't have it yet.
Yeah, now this is the Assassin's Creed 2 trilogy. These are some of the best in the franchise.
Right.
I will mention that. And we also got SD Gundam Battle Alliance.
Oh man, more Gundam.
Yeah, which is actually coming to all, worth noting that most of these are coming to all platforms outside of Live Alive. That does seem to be and the front mission games, those seem to be going for the Nintendo Switch first. And speaking of things getting remakes that I am ungodly excited about, the first two Kelowna games are getting a package.
Klonoa, which is another one of those mascot platformers that in its day was easy for people who weren't really playing them to ignore because they were so goddamn many, but it's one of the ones that it actually did some very interesting, weird things with the story and have some pretty interesting gameplay mechanics to set them apart.
Yeah.
So nice to see that getting another.
Okay, Kelowna was actually a lot more forward-facing than a lot of 2D platformers back in the day, because like Kelowna is like one of the first, maybe the first 2D platformer I can remember that played around with perspective. Now, it wasn't just fucking flat. Like when you move in Kelowna, the camera will move. You know, it's a game we would call these days 2.5D. You know, and it's also a puzzle platformer. Which, okay, yeah, in the explosion era, not exactly uncommon. But back on the PlayStation, you didn't get a lot of puzzle platformers. You got a lot of precision platformers or run and gun with platforming mixed in, something like that. Or, you know,
at the most, you get your Crash Bandicoots, where the puzzle is just how to break all the boxes.
Yeah, or Symphony of the Night. You know, the thing that Matt Nicholas is called search action, but we will still call Metroidvania because that's just kind of how the vernacular works. My point is, yeah, Kelowna, at least the PlayStation Kelowna, was doing a lot of stuff a lot of platformers weren't. Also extend to its sequel, you know, its direct sequel, because there's actually quite a few Kelowna games. Like the Game Boy Advance got a few of them. Those are strictly, you know, 2D affair. Like, you know, and I think the Wonder Swan got a Kelowna game or two. And Kelowna got remade for the Wii. I will give it to Namco. Like, they've actually tried to make Kelowna a thing more so than you'd expect. Because I'm like, you know, Kelowna's getting another chance, which is actually good because the Kelowna games are good and deserve to be played by more people. But it's also the Kelowna games have never been sellers. You know, keep in mind, these were 2.5D creations in the age of 3D. It's also, we weren't hurting for mascot platformers in the 90s.
Yeah, I have heard about it before, but I remember the background when it came out that it very much blended into the, like, for all I cared, it could have been another Aero the Acrobat game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, let's see. The Delicious Last Course of Cuphead is the DLC is coming out on June 30th. I still need to play the main campaign. You know, Daleks here gave it to me for Christmas. I just haven't had the time to, you know, play it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we were off for 2 weeks. Here's the thing: I have a lot of games.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, I'm verging on 2,800 on my Steam. So yeah. But also worth noting, the Cuphead Netflix series comes out in like 2 days at time of recording. So let's see. Like I said, there's still a lot of stuff here. Some minor stuff like that we don't really care about, like MLB The Show. Maybe more interest in, say, the Taiko no Tatsujin Rhythm Festival game.
Mm-hmm.
It's got Megalovania in it. And Zelda.
And they're adding Mother 1 and Mother 2 to the NES subscription service. Too bad there's no Game Boy Advance games on the NES subscription service.
Yeah, that shows up. Mother 3 may show up. But yeah, Earthbound Beginnings are now on the Nintendo Switch Online. More on that in a little bit, because yeah, there's more to talk about there. I suppose moving to the more major announcements that we haven't covered yet, a new Wii Sports has been announced.
Air quotes, Wii Sports.
It's Nintendo Switch Sports, but let's be, you know, they are upfront.
They literally said it's part of the same franchise, basically.
It's just, you know, it's not called the Nintendo Wii anything. So that branding doesn't make sense for this game. So even though nobody's probably going to call it Nintendo Switch Sports outside of them, they're going to call it Nintendo Switch Sports.
Looks like
And
it's mostly Joy-Con. It's pretty much Joy-Con controls, and it looks like they have an idea for the leg strap from Ring Fit being used for soccer, but they didn't fully implement that at launch, which is a choice.
right. I'm like, and some of the games aren't going to be ready for launch. Like, people were grumbling about golf not being there, but it turns out that that's coming in like a fall update, I think. I know like two of the sports are coming in later as free DLC.
Mm-hmm.
Like, speaking of DLC, maybe a shock to some people, but if you've been paying attention to the sales charts, this isn't going to be a surprise. You know, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is getting 48 new courses based off of like all the past Mario Kart games, including
This is, for the record, the number of courses that were in the original game.
Mm-hmm. And you might be asking, why is Mario Kart 8 Deluxe getting all this DLC 2 years or 3 years after, however long it's been since release? And the answer to that is because it's still selling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they don't really need a Mario Kart 9 at this point. I guess they don't have enough mechanical changes that they want to make for a whole new game. That said, almost all of, if not all of the new courses are specifically going to be remade courses from older games, which if they then do go and make a Mario Kart 9, are the ones that it's going to be less of an issue to not have new versions of, or not have again.
Like, also, the DLC will be free with the Nintendo Online service.
As long as you have that.
Yeah. Like I said, I would expect this going forward. Like,
and not just the free one, you have to have the deluxe one.
going to be part of the NSO. Like, hello?
Hi.
You dropped out for a little bit, but you're back.
I guess he's having issues. Wonderful.
Well, I thought you were back.
I'm still here, right?
Yes,
Hello?
you're still here.
Adam?
Hello, Adam.
Oh, boy.
Hello?
Adam.
Hello.
Yeah, sorry. My connection got poor there. So I got dropped. Yeah. As I was saying, expect like major DLC campaigns and what have you from their major maybe even their minor franchises to be part of the Nintendo Switch Online experience.
Probably mostly first-party stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Right. There's a chance that,
Speaking of first-party DLC, did you think Metroid Dread needed a harder mode?
Some people did, believe it or not. But yeah.
Well, congratulations, you have Samus Must Die mode.
Somebody's going to have it beaten in an hour.
Yeah. We've got the Dread mode and the Rookie mode. And, the Boss Rush mode.
I thought Boss Rush was coming later.
Boss Rush is not out yet. But they announced
But that is coming. Yeah. And I think the last big announcement out of the Nintendo Direct was Xenoblade Chronicles 3.
Which looks pretty... Okay, the original character looks pretty generic, but not necessarily in a bad way. But I'm very interested to see how they are going to do this with the alleged goal of combining making it a sequel to both Xenoblade 1 and Xenoblade 2, which, while they are in linked worlds, are pretty different. So it'll be interesting to see how they do that.
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to be doing. Granted, I don't know a whole hell of a lot about Xenoblade Chronicles in general. I do know that the character designer from Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is returning, though apparently somebody gave him the proper whipping he deserved for those fucking character designs. Because
not all of the character designs in 2 were bad, and not all of them were the same person. But yes, this is a much more grounded character design, at least for the characters we've seen so far.
It's also
for a value of grounded that involves a gigantic hammer that's made out of a wheel or something.
My point is the character designs don't make me want to hurt people.
So far, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, granted.
Remember, most of the bad designs in Xenoblade Chronicles 2 are blades.
Fair enough. Also worth mentioning, Triangle Strategy got a prologue mode.
Yeah, which is basically it's the usual demo that is the first part of the game, and you can continue your save thing over into the actual game.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of Nintendo stuff. And keep in mind, this is just their first half of the year release slate. So we still don't know what their big guns for the fall of 2022 are yet. And people are despairing, oh, Breath of the Wild 2 isn't there. Yeah, because it's the first half of the year stuff.
Mm-hmm. It may get delayed as usual for a Zelda game, or it may just be a holiday release, which was always more likely than it being any time earlier in the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would expect Breath of the Wild 2 to be their big tentpole release for November.
Yeah. If it's not talked about at E3, we're getting it 2023.
Yeah. Anyway, so while the Nintendo giveth, they also taketh, and oh dear God, they taketh away. Because on the flip side of things, it was announced the other day, about 24 hours ago, the 3DS and the Wii U eShops will be closing in 2023.
Now, they already stopped taking credit card payments a bit ago, if I remember correctly.
In Japan. Here's the thing. All payment option, as of May 23rd, 2022, you will not be able to use a credit card to add funds. On August 29th, 2022, it will no longer be possible to use a Nintendo eShop card to add funds to either eShop. It will be possible to redeem download codes until March 2023. And Nintendo apparently
funds.
Yeah. And apparently Nintendo knew the backlash was coming because they put a very, very defensive FAQ out that said, no, we are not, we have no plan to offer classic content in other ways. Maybe Nintendo Switch Online. And they have already deleted that. Yeah. So obviously this is terrible. But the thing that I'm noting is that the reaction is a lot more emotional this time around. Because not the first time Nintendo has destroyed an eShop. Or a thing that had different branding to an eShop, but was still an eShop.
But these are the ones that had a lot of... there was not as much on the Wii U and DSi shops.
Right. But we are still losing stuff.
Yeah, there are a lot of games. And again, not all of the games are going to be unobtainable now. There are plenty that have physical releases, but there are also a lot of download-only games on those two platforms that are, good. And maybe someone's getting into a franchise in 20 years, and then they have no legal way to play that version of them.
Well, just, on the flip side of things, the entire oeuvre of RC Maniacs will be thrown into the void. I know there are people who are happy about that, but it's like those are still things that are not going to exist anymore, which is terrible on a preservation front. And, it isn't like Steam trash here. where it could be, very, very racist, for example. They were bad, sure, but they're still not going to exist anymore.
Mhm.
Or
And even bad examples are still are still important to have around for historical purposes.
Or it's not even, or another, probably the best game that's always going to be tied to the Wii U's particular control scheme, which we did an interview about way back in the day, Affordable Space Adventures. That's not going to be able to be played legally in a year.
Well,
No,
I should
by
say
new
purchased. You can
Yeah.
still play it if you already have it. You just won't be able to purchase it again.
Yeah. And I'm like, and here's the thing. These games will live on in the pirate sections of the interwebs. Like the WiiWare, for example.
I did specify a legal way.
And if Nintendo has a problem with this, well, you fucking took down the legal option. What are people to fucking do? Oh, apparently just do nothing. That's not how life works, you stupid fuck. No, people will preserve this one way or another. Now, I won't say all of the efforts will be scrupulous, because a lot of people are whinging about Nintendo taking down soundtracks that on YouTube that don't have official releases. Okay, that's the kind of fire you play with on fucking YouTube.
Yes,
not your...
that is somewhat confusing behavior for Nintendo to not make their things available legally. But it's very clear, very clean cut that no, it's not actually okay to put someone else's music up on YouTube, especially on any channel that might allow ads on that. That's especially not okay.
Yep. It's and people, people want to rush to the defense of these channels being taken down, and I get that, but it's once again, that's not taking down all the piracy channels. That's maybe taking away a bit of the accessibility. You don't have to download them or what have you. But that's not to say that these things can't be re-uploaded. It's my point is, yeah, this is at best a legal gray area, and because I guarantee you, this is some specific shit, because we're talking about Nintendo and not, say, some indie artist who didn't want their music to be available for whatever reason. And if you tried to apply the same justifications here, oh no, the same people who are bleeding about Nintendo being evil would be screaming about these pirates taking away the livelihood of the artists. I have seen this fucking hypocrisy up close.
Mm-hmm.
It's and I'm sorry, once again, the world doesn't fucking work that way. Anyway, so yeah, this is bad tidings from Nintendo, and unlike Sony, which tried to do this not too long ago, I'm not sure Nintendo is capable into being bullied and keeping their old eShops around. So, if there's anything you want on the 3DS or the Wii U that's digital only, get going.
Yeah, I understand this on a corporate level. It definitely takes money to keep those eShops running, and I'm sure that it has been years since they have had enough sales on those eShops to actively justify it. It's just that from a game historian and archival perspective, it's very frustrating.
Yeah. And I'll note, okay, we're highlighting the bad actors here, Nintendo and Sony. I will have to give praise to Microsoft, because they have been very, very good in their preservation efforts. Not 100% amazing. Like, there's a lot of old PC games from the 90s that I still can't fucking play. But that's once again, that's something for another day. They do have a lot of their console games, a lot of third-party console games from the original Xbox era all the way to now, available to be able to be played and downloaded.
I think Microsoft has always been, I mean, for obvious reasons, more PC minded and more computer minded, which has a much, I mean, it's not a non-existent cycle, but a much slower cycle of backward compatibility obsolescence.
Right. And to say nothing about, like, on the PC, Steam, good old games, the abandonware movement. Yeah, I know that it ain't legal, but these were the people who were keeping a lot, like System Shock 2 preserved until Night Dive could get their hands on it.
Mm-hmm.
So, there are good
if it's
areas.
Really abandonware, then it's at worst a legal gray area, but
that's neither here nor there.
Mm-hmm.
My point is, yeah, there is a lot of work to be done on the digital preservation front, especially for video games, but it's gotten better. I have seen it get better. Like, there are fucking problems, but I can't say that no progress has been made. I mean, do you remember how it was back not even that long ago? I'd say up into the mid 2000s, when game nostalgia hit its first wave. It was just unless we were talking about some specific instances of backwards compatibility, it's just you moved on to the next console.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I remember this.
Kept your old console and played old games.
Mm-hmm. It's like when you moved on to the Super NES, you put away the Nintendo Entertainment System.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of grumbling from parents about that, but Nintendo was able to get away with it.
I mean, backwards compatibility didn't even really start being... Well, no, that's not true, because Sega, to some extent, did have backwards compatibility.
I'm like, like I said, there was backwards compatibility. The Atari 7800 was backwards compatible with the 2600. The Game Boy lineage went up all the way to the Game Boy Advance. Nintendo's actually been really good with the backwards compatibility on their handhelds until the Switch. But the Switch not being backwards compatible with anything else is because it's all new architecture. It's all new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same reason why PlayStation 1 games couldn't be brought over to the PlayStation 4 easily. Brand new architecture. So anyway, point is, yeah, the 3DS and the Wii U digital storefronts are going to be closing. So if you want to get, say, Harmono Night, and you should, get to going on the purchasing. Like I said, I could rattle off more of these because there's quite a few of them. Rusty's Real Deal Baseball. One of the boldest experiments in DLC pricing is going to be gone, and so on and so forth. All right. So, yeah, I think that'll about do it for our topics of discussion this week. And indeed, that'll about do it for this installment of Fragments of Silicon. The week ahead, give me a minute here. I don't seem to have the proper thing open. But I will say we do not have a Friday show, which is well enough because I got relatives coming in this weekend. They're coming in on Friday night. They're leaving on Sunday morning. So it's, it's not something I'm looking all that forward to because, let's just say politics and leave it at that. Anyway, coming up on the Sunday game reviews. At least the plan is we'll be reviewing 99 videos, and sure the pronunciation on that. It's Portuguese. Petty Fan will be covering Mars Underground. Gollux will be covering the Anacrusis. And I might be covering Kamikaze Veggies. I've played like a half an hour of this. I got kind of bugged out in the tutorial section, and before I could come back to it, my computer decided to have problems. So if I don't get my laptop back in a reasonable amount of time, this game is getting delayed to another week. I've certainly played enough of 99 videos to get a sensible idea of how it works. It's a brawler. It's not exactly the most deep thing in the world, though it's deeper than some other brawlers I could name. Anyway, until Sunday, I shall wish you good gaming.